Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
Don't ask me, but I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me, but I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III.
North Korea's Kim Jong-un warns U.S. against foolish act that risks security. Again, it says that North Korea's Kim Yo-jong, of course, the sister of leader Kim Jong-un, said on Monday that the United States should avoid any, quote, foolish act that could put its security at risk, and rejected offers to talks as a ploy, state media KCNA news agency said. Now, remember, KCNA is, of course, their state-funded propaganda piece, and it's probably the worst out of any country. Kim made her comments after the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that the United States remains concerned that North Korea would carry out another intercontinental ballistic missile test after it last week fired an ICBM off its east coast. It says, quote, the United States should stop a foolish act that could put its security at risk by provoking us, Kim said in a statement carried out by KCNA. She criticized U.S. plans for a nuclear-armed ballistic missile submarine to visit South Korea and said that such efforts to increase extended deterrence would only push Pyongyang further from the negotiating table. Kim also rejected U.S. calls for unconditional talks and said that the Washington was wrong if it believes that North Korea's disarmament was possible. So, again, saying that it's beyond that point, then not going to disarm. They want to be considered a full-on, a real boy. Besides this, as far as all of the stuff that's going on, many people believe that North Korea is a puppet of either Russia or China or both, that they are basically being used by not only them, but even Western countries to do illegal things there and all sorts of stuff, and that it's basically one big circus show. But others believe that North Korea is actually going to be one of the most dangerous countries to deal with out of any of them, because they could fire a trigger. They could actually pull the trigger on a nuke that basically kind of a kamikaze move that if they do, they're going to take themselves out. So we'll talk about this and much, much more tonight on Marfoogle News. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me, but I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023.
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so we are going to let you know that you can go over to marfooglenews.com and find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. Now, when you go over there, you will see that it is very easy to navigate. Just look for today's thumbnail, Northern Interaction 2023. And, of course, is this practice for the real thing? You'll find a source list, a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today, plus a whole lot more. In fact, when you go there, you'll see that it has not only the show archived, but all of the info, plus a whole lot of web content and overflow. This is all the stuff that could not fit into the 2-hour time period, or is, again, something that is way, way out there. So, again, make sure to go check that out. And, of course, use that. That is there every night, and it is all archived and searchable. All right, let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, thank you everybody for making it today. Thank you, Mark Ramos says finally make a live show. Thanks, Marfoogle team, for all you do. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here and of course being here to watch. Appreciate that. Kathleen Mary Darago or Darago, I think that is, or Darago. Thank you so much for subscribing. And as always, if you subscribe during the show, of course, we'll give you a shout out. So thank you so much. And then make sure to go check out our mods tonight. There's a lot of people in the chat. If you've never been to the chat, make sure to pop in. It's really fun. There's a lot of great people there. The mods that are holding it down are, of course, right here on marfooglenews.com/friends. There's lots of really, really great people here, so make sure to go check them out. They all have their own channels, or again, they may actually just have a book on Amazon like Chance. They may have channels on Brighteon or Twitter accounts, so make sure to go check out and find them. Also, we have lots of friends and creators that we've worked with in the past and believe that are the same on and off camera. These are all really great people, some big, some small, all of them great people. So make sure to go check them out at marfooglenews.com/friends. So Dex, let's go back to North Korea. Again, North Korea, Kim Yo-jong. I don't believe anything that comes out of North Korea, but that's because it's just been a circus there forever. I mean, it's been a circus there for a long time, but ever since he supposedly almost died and had surgery, and then, of course, then his sister started talking, I have really had a lot of doubts about what is actually going on there. But that's even the scarier part, because I believe that if that is being used by another country as kind of a scare tactic, or they are controlling what they're saying and what they're doing, then it could be part of a massive Fantastic Freddy to come. Dex, do you know what I mean by that? Like how since we reported that he had the brain surgery and that they thought he perished, and then all of a sudden his sister comes out of nowhere, starts talking, people go, oh, well, he's been talking. But of course, now there's a lot of folks that look at him and say he looks different. There's weird differences between him. And of course, now they can fake anything. They can fake video. They can fake deep fakes. Why does she even talk in the first place? In their culture, it just doesn't make sense. Go ahead, Dex.
Well, and I don't know if we can make sense of any of it because, at the end of the day, what is being fed to us from NK is only that they want us to know. They control 100% of everything. They are their own media. They put out their own statements. Other than that, no one else can report out. Citizens can't report anything. They have no access to social. And if they do, they basically get thrown in the gulags or put in work camps for the rest of their life if they're allowed to live beyond that point. So, the thing that's scariest about what they've been doing with these ICBMs is the fact that they're going further and further with them. And the last one I think was like 75 minutes or 74 minutes. It's a pretty long flight, even though it was straight up and straight back down in theory, because it came back down in the ocean there near them. So it's not like it went around the globe or anything, but that was a very long flight, and that flight could easily be a long flight to any other location on the Earth, or even to a location nearby, like SK or Japan. That would be very detrimental if something was on that ICBM, and I think that's what everybody worries about because there is very little visibility and definitely zero transparency as to what they're doing.
Yeah, like Dex says, there's no independent journalists in North Korea. The only information that comes out is not only through KCNA, their interagency news agency, but then that is then also filtered out by Western media, which lies almost all the time. I mean, pretty much all the time. So it's like we only get what they want us to see or hear. Any reaction that we have to North Korea is probably manufactured. It's probably something they 4D chest out and they essentially said, well, if we say this, they'll do this, this and that. On the other hand, if it's not the boy crying wolf, and again, there are many people, there are many generals. There are folks that we talk to, even like through EMP Shield and things. There's of course, the EMP task force that believes, like Peter Pry, and then, of course, some of his constituents, and Peter Pry, of course, passed. When he was alive, he talked about how North Korea could be one of the biggest threats out there because now they've got a super EMP weapon, and they, of course, have the ability to possibly even do a fractional orbital bombardment system that would almost be we would be defenseless in a lot of ways. If it comes from the right direction, we would have very little chance of stopping it. So something like that is a very scary thought to think about. But again, there's all of these other countries that are not our fans right now. And no matter what side you look at it, even if you are pro another side or think that the U.S. and Western nations are the enemy, then you would think the same thing, that there's even more countries that want to do this to us. The thing is, the U.S. is extremely vulnerable right now. Even though we are the biggest and the baddest, there's been all sorts of decisions made that have kind of half crippled us. And a lot of folks don't understand it. We've talked about many of these as far as, from recruitment to giving our gear away to not updating our current gear. There's all sorts of things that are happening here, not to mention all of the financial kind of hits we've taken since CV, which that's a whole nother bag in itself. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Of course, NK has not been the same. I feel like anything they say is it has to be taken with a cup of salt, and we don't know what's going on. But on the other hand, it could be used by three-letter agencies to actually make it look like they did something horrific to start a WW3 scenario or do a gigantic Pearl Harbor 2.0 type of thing and get everybody involved. They, of course, are working very closely with China and very closely with Russia. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then we have sensitive U.S. military information has been sent to Mali for years thanks to a simple typo. Now the Russia-friendly government will get access to it. Dex, do you want to cover this one?
So this is kind of crazy. So if you think about the domain names like marfooglenews.com, well, there's a specific domain name for the military. It ends in .mil. Well, there's another top-level domain name called .ml. And .ml is for the country of Mali. And it's been under the management, that country, along with some other countries, had given the management of their top-level domain to this Dutch entrepreneur named Johannes Zubrier, who was contracted to manage those domains. So, but here's the thing. If you were sending an email to Milley, General Milley at dod.mil, but you left out the I and you typed .ml by accident, a typo, common, happens all the time, your email would go to this other domain. And what was happening is, and as what this entrepreneur, Johannes Zubrier, who was managing it, said, hey, we saw this happen all the time. We saw medical data, we saw passport details, we saw crew lists, they saw employees accidentally sending password recoveries to military, services. They've had lots of other types of emails that have accidentally gone to the wrong top-level domain. Now, in his hands, it may not have been as bad. Of course, it is bad. They don't want that going to anybody, but they can't control it because somebody is actually typing it in incorrectly. But the scary part is it's now literally going, because his contract, this Johannes Zubrier, the Dutch entrepreneur who was managing multiple country domain names, his contract's up. So the domain name, the top-level domain .ml, is going back to the country of Mali instead of using this contractor to manage it. And if you're unfamiliar with that country, it's like landlocked in Western Africa. It has a long history of armed rebellion and lots of extreme activity, military dictatorship, etc. So all of a sudden, as of the end of this contract, no longer will it be going to this Dutch entrepreneur. If anybody typos these military addresses, that information is going to Mali. Mali now also is known to have very strong relations with Russia. So he did say in his research, of course, there's tons of spam, tons of other emails that just go to that address, or those addresses. But he did say in his research, he did not see anything that was labeled top secret. I doubt anything in an open email system would be labeled top secret and sent in that fashion. But he did say there was lots of pertinent information that was obviously flying through there with people typoing it. And that is going to continue, except now that government will be doing it themselves as opposed to contracting it with him. And they have close ties with Russia.
Yeah, they have very close relations with Russia, or Will Smith would call it an entanglement. Zelensky, Pentagon belatedly acknowledged counteroffensive had to be, quote, paused amid losses. So there's a big debate with even outside of our community. In our community, everybody's always debating, but outside of our community, whether Russia is actually losing or not. For anybody that just wants the just truth of it and doesn't care, like right now, it's a very sensitive topic because for anything going back decades, if you said anything that went against what the Western media says, then you are supporting the other side. I think that it's really crucial to understand what propaganda is, how many sides take part in it, which is all sides, and realizing that the official news that comes out of all countries is a lot of the times totally made up, manufactured, or fake, or it's spun in a certain way to make a certain side look good. Most of us here, we would rather just have the truth, but our government and many other governments do not work transparently. Even when they're being transparent, they are half redacted. I mean, look at all of the stuff they released on the JFK event, right? It's literally redacted throughout half of the stuff. So even when they're being transparent, even if you do a FOIA and get all of the information, half of it is gone. And that's transparency as far as our government is concerned. Now, as far as with this offensive, people are wondering if UKR is actually losing. And if you look at Western media, it shows them winning and taking back territories and kicking Russia's butt. On the other hand, you also see that Russia's having internal problems. It's falling apart. Their own PMC, their own private military is turning on them. They're about to have a mutiny. Heck, Russia might be taken any day by its own people because all of their people, according to our media, absolutely hate their country's leaders. And they are not patriotic whatsoever, and they want regime change. That sounds to me more like a three-letter agency putting information out than anything else. And that's because the people there are like the people here with the U.S., as far as a lot of people are patriotic about the U.S., and the people there are the same. They're patriotic about their leader. They're patriotic about their country. They are, diehard. Whatever it takes, we're going to protect Mother Russia. Gosh, if you take that out of context. But you get what I'm saying. They are the same way there. Now, all of this stuff with the mutiny and all of that, obviously it's shady because, look, the mutiny had nobody really got in trouble for it. And, in fact, they handed weapons back. You don't have somebody do a mutiny and then say, oh, here's your weapons back. Come on. It absolutely doesn't make any sense. But then you have to think of the 4D chess aspect and realize that that's what they wanted us to think. They wanted us to think that this is shady. But why do they want us to think it's shady? What is actually happening here? My belief is we're never going to have all of the answers for this, but I do believe that if you look at the future agendas that the world wants to get done, these are huge, huge moves. And they would take essentially an entire reset of the world. And to build up this new system, you would have to break down the old. We are seeing it in the financial sector. Everything is collapsing. And that's not like a over-exaggeration. Things are collapsing. And you're seeing this new system that's rising, the digital system, the all trackable, all traceable digital money system that's popping up. And then, of course, you have all of the countries, their alliances, and this split way that we have lived for so long. And to be honest, most people like the way it is. Under this new system, it would be pretty much everybody under the same umbrella. Now, people have known about this order of things for a very long time. And now, for that to happen, what people don't realize, and most of you already do, is that something absolutely massive would have to happen for us to reset the entire world. And that thing could very well be the World War III that could literally break down everything and then build it back up when the dust is settled. And after the dust is settled, all of these people that are probably on stage playing their part, they would still be around. They would still be in charge in some capacity. they would be in their mansions. Well, all of the regular people that are literally joining up the military for $50,000 over 4 years, it's like these are not the most elite people in the world. You don't see billionaires going and signing up for service, or at least not anymore. So when you see that, they don't care about those people. They don't care about us regular people. So I think that this is all, this whole thing is an absolute circus. And you have mainstream media saying that these guys are winning, they're losing, they're doing all this. When Russia, realistically, the truth is, they have not used a lot of their extremely high-tech stuff. They weren't even using jets until a couple months ago. And there's still information saying that they haven't even gone in and used their stuff. If they have the ability to wipe an entire platoon, why aren't they doing it? Well, it seems something is being dragged on until something very specific happens. There's all this talk about the threats of the nuclear power plants. There's been rumors that there was at least 5 different places hit with drones, this or that. I mean, there's a lot of back and forth going on here. I guess my point is this whole counteroffensive has taken so much attention away from the fact that we all need to step back and go, well, what is actually happening? It looks like this is definitely moving one step at a time forward, and they're doing it carefully. So they craft the narrative completely and utterly so they get, as the most people possible to believe exactly what's going on. That's at least my opinion. Dex, what do you think as far as how the Pentagon, and then how the Pentagon actually acknowledged that they paused it?
Well, I mean, I guess it's one of those things that no matter what, you have to take it with the grain of salt, because these are coming from the mouthpieces of the biggest Ganda outlets on either side. I mean, whether it's the Pentagon being one side, they're not there to report news and accuracy. They're there to report and do things that are proficient and in favor of the actions that they're trying to take. So same thing with UKR's military, same thing with Russia's military. So but it is no shocker, in my opinion, because we didn't really see massive gains or any huge wins coming out of this counteroffensive. That the New York Times comes out and says in a statement, quote unquote, after suffering heavy losses, UKR paused to rethink the strategy. Of course, they had to put a spin on it to try to make it sound better than it really was, but they're outright admitting to the fact that it didn't work. It wasn't working. You don't pause something if it was going well and doing really good things. You would keep going. So, for the fact that they're putting this out and soft spinning it, so to speak, certainly gives some credence to the fact that there's probably some truth to that, and it's not the narrative they normally want to put out.
Debbie Rogers says, almost 6 years in, love you and Dex. This channel is the best. Love our family. Hey, Debbie Rogers, thank you for your support. Thank you for the super chat. And I appreciate everybody that has been here that long. It is crazy how time has just flown. Thank you, Tanya H., 50 Shades of Cray, Kenny Crowder, Wages World, Julie Pilkerton, Next Exit, Nikki Apple, thank you so much. Be Real Beast, Mystery School, I'm Batman 78, I Love Jesus Forever, and Celtic Warrior. Of course, Nana Montana, thank you so much, along with Samuel Turner on the last show, along with Airplane Woman. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Again, if there is something or some sort of question, somebody asked, like, who do we talk to if you can't figure out how to get to the website? I would say there's mods on all the different platforms except for Rumble. If you're on Rumble, then head over to one of the other platforms. One of the mods can help you, but I would say if you need, just go to marfooglenews.com. You can usually find everything that you need. Debbie, thank you. And then Michael Johnson, what's going on? We have WIS Gen. We have Michigan Free Lifestyle. And then can you imagine how Gen Z will handle being drafted, says JS. That people laugh at that, but that's like people are so sensitive right now. Nobody wants to offend anybody. But if you really think about, Gen Z, it's pretty scary to think about. And, I'm sure a lot of you know some good Gen Z, or maybe some of you are a good Gen Z. And I don't think there's a good or bad, but look at how the culture of these kids have grown up. They've grown up on tablets and devices instead of outside in the woods or outside in the street playing. Uh, it- I don't know why in the last 20, 30 years, people got so overly protective over their kids. I guess it's an evolution of like how we think, but I mean, you guys know when we were kids, you would basically be on your own. And over time, they essentially sheltered kids a lot from a lot of things, or at least I see now, kids aren't allowed to play out in the street alone because of the weirdos, right? Kids are not allowed to do things. And maybe was a lot more crazy stuff that happened, but I remember when I was a kid, there was even a sense when you were a kid of freedom that you could go out, you could do things, you could walk down the street way out of sight of your parents and do things at very early ages, like go climb in a ravine or something and, just go explore. Now kids can't do that. But on top of that, then you bring in the technological devices uh, that have made us zombies. It's absolutely crazy to think of Gen Zs. If I don't know if you've ever had to deal at two of my jobs in the last 5 years, I've had to deal with Gen Zs that are in lower positions, like say they're a bagger or a checker or fast food or something like that. It's like the work ethic is absolutely non-existent in a lot of these kids. You probably have gone to a fast food place or a restaurant or somewhere where there's a Gen Z there. And I mean, like, it's the perfect example. And I'm sure there's always been kids like this, but where they sweep with one hand and just kind of sit there while on their phone. Like these are the kids that are getting drafted. And it is a big deal because if we think if you believe like me that we're going into World War III and they have done all of the back framework to do a new draft, they've been talking about even adding women to the draft. There's all sorts of talk and chatter about the draft. Then that means they will be drafting 18 to 35 or whatever they change it to. They're going to be drafting these kids. And these kids, it's hard to have faith in the kids that you see nowadays. And I'm sure a lot of us have kids in that age. You guys probably know. They can't spend 5 minutes away from a power outlet because their phone might die. I don't know how they would deal out in the, in the conditions of what we're about to go into. I don't see how this could be a good thing. So great comment. I mean, really, people don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know why. And then, let's see here. We've got scraping into the floor of Mars crater reveals odd image resembling a polar bear. Well, maybe because it is a polar bear. Maybe they painted the Antarctica red. An oddity found in NASA's search for past life on Mars looks more like like a Native American pictograph. Specifically, NASA scientists are calling it a polar bear. The odd-shaped crystal was revealed when the Perseverance Mars rover scraped away surface rock to see the interior that's less altered by the exterior of the environment. So if you look, this kind of outline, and I wish I had the ability to draw on screen, but I see kind of a polar bear with a bent leg kind of walking. This is one paw right here, if you can see my mouse. Right now, I'm zooming in on the head. Then you can see this line that goes down, and then the leg. Or at least that's what I see. What do you guys see? But is it more like one of those ink blots where if you look at the clouds, you're going to see whatever you see, and everybody will see something different? Personally, I see actually right down here, I see like a monkey face in the lower. I see two eyes and a nose and kind of a cleft lip right here. I see all sorts of stuff. I see a flower over here. So I don't know. It looks like a piece of granite. It almost looks. You know what this looks like to me? This looks like they zoomed in on a piece of granite and they said, "Oh yeah, this is yeah, that's Mars rover." Yeah, They had like 11 minutes to get the media a picture of Mars. So they called up Ted in northern Pennsylvania and said, "Hey, can you take a picture of your kitchen counter?" I have rose counters. Let me go to my bathroom. I don't know, but does that not look like a zoom in of granite? Dex, what did you think when you saw it?
Yeah, it definitely looks granite like to me, like something you would see on a countertop. I can see the polar bear only because they told me that's what I was looking for when I saw it. I don't know if I would have necessarily picked that animal. But look, they say this stuff's all coincidental. Don't worry about it. They said this the same thing about the rock formations that were shaped like a face, the door-shaped fracture that's in a cliff. It looks like a door in the cliff. A rock-sized bowling ball found precariously balanced atop a leaning boulder. All of those are just coincidences, along with the polar bear. Just coincidences.
I also see, I mean, I see a lot of different things. I almost see like this is like a Komodo dragon or something. Whatever you see, let me know in the comments down below if you're watching the replay. Either way, I know that there's going to be two different factions on this. The one thing is though is that there's been a lot of weird kind of videos lately, a lot of weird pictures. The SpaceX rocket or whatever that it appeared to have a rat running around, and the video is supposedly legit video of it flying 7,000 miles per hour, but yet you can see a mouse fly, basically crawl on the rocket. If you haven't seen that video, just look up mouse running on SpaceX rocket. I mean, it just stuff like that makes people definitely doubt what's going on. And who knows, maybe a company would do something like that if they're behind, or if they legitly, have that capability, but they fail and they've got investors, so they, try to fake something or something. And then forget about Tom and Jerry there. Before we move on, I want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out Energy. This is our recommendation for solar generators. Most of you have wanted to get into a generator if you are a prepper, or if you're at least responsible minded, or if you've been in a place where you've lost power multiple times, then you've probably already wanted a generator. The reason why I would recommend solar is they're silent, so you can be a gray man. You don't want people hearing that you have power from 3 blocks away. This is also unlimited power as long as you have some solar panels. When you pair this with some of their folding panels, and most of them actually come in kits where you get everything you need, essentially you put those panels out, you put them out in the sun and plug one cord into the generator, and you have power going into it. So when we have power, you can store, of course, the power from the sun, and then when the power does go out, you can actually, all of these systems are essentially, you can turn them into UPS systems. Even the Flex 1500 has a UPS adapter. The cool thing about the Flex 1500 and the Flex Tactical is they're modular. So they actually, you can alter them over time. You can add things like UPS. You can add things like, you can triple the amount of charging or triple the amount of panels you can plug in. Basically like Lego. So if you essentially stack them like a sandwich, and you can add up to 96 batteries. That's a huge deal, being able to either take it with you as a portable unit with 1 or 2 or even 5 batteries on one stack, or you can have it as a home unit and put 96 batteries on it, which would essentially equal a wall. One thing, if you want to just get a basic unit that's all built in one that has everything, I would definitely go for the X2. They have the 15% off on the remaining units. This, as far as this batch goes, you're going to get 15% off plus our discount. So our discount is stacking, and it doesn't normally with Energy, but with the X2, it will. So that's 15% off plus our discount on the Kodiak X2. These are amazing units. They can also be dual linked, and they, of course, you can double the capacity and double the output. If you end up getting 2, again, that would be more than most people even need. So again, that is marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY. And also, if you want the most tactical out of tactical, military strong, the Energy Flex Tactical was actually designed by the Air Force Research Laboratory and Energy, and now just won a Army contract. So they just actually won the SBIR U.S. Army phase 2 contract. So they are literally military strong. That one is incredible. So go to marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. You help our independent channel, and you are getting a huge discount at the same time. So thank you guys, and I appreciate everybody that goes over and does that through us. But either way, I would look into a generator, gas, or solar if you don't have one because of all of the crazy stuff that's going on right now. This helps for a ton of different disasters. If it's rather a storm, it doesn't have to be SHTF, tornadoes, earthquakes, all sorts of stuff. So again, really, really good to have backup power. All right, and then let's see here. We've got Russia says Ukrainian attack on Crimea bridge took the lives of 2, an orphaned daughter injured. It just happened to involve an orphaned daughter. By the way, most anytime somebody perishes, there is going to be somebody who, again, is some sort of verb that is really, really sad. 2 people perished and their daughter was wounded on Monday in what Russia said was a UKR attack on the Crimean Bridge, an artery for Russian troops fighting in UKR, and a prestige project personally opened by President Vladimir Putin. Blasts were reported before dawn on the 19-kilometer or 12-mile road and rail bridge linking Russia to Crimea, which Russia annexed from UKR in 2014. Unverified imagery showed a section of road on the bridge had split and listing to one side with metal barriers buckled. Dashcam footage showed drivers braking sharply shortly after the incident. Traffic was halted. I love how this is Reuters, and you literally do not have. They can't even verify that photo. Dex, did you notice? I mean, I understand. How do they not have something that can verify this? I guess because it's in Russia. But so they're basically
and it's also a dash cam, so probably coming from a dash cam photo.
But what about the actual event
on social media? Well, yeah, they can verify that. They just can't verify that the photograph is from that event.
So as far as this bridge, it's not completely destroyed, right? It's isn't it one lane or it's a part of it?
Yeah, the pictures I saw, it looks like one lane or one, like the lanes were split and the one section, one side of it was damaged significantly. I don't know how much the other side could be damaged, just not visible, but they may not be drivable on both sides. But one side obviously is not drivable. It's a whole chunk missing.
One thing that's crazy is it's not. It says 12-mile road. Is this 12-mile long bridge? That seems extremely long.
Yes.
Is it really 12 miles long? Is that one of the longest bridges in existence, or how? I know we have one that's probably a mile here, but
we've got some long ones. The Lake Pontchartrain, I think, is the name of it. I've been across it in north of New Orleans, and then obviously Key West. We got some very long bridges connecting those islands.
I guess there's a lot of long floating bridges, and is this a floating one? This is a floating one, correct?
No, these aren't floating. These are fixed.
Jeez,
all of those are fixed.
12 miles. That's as long as most big cities. I mean, shoot, all of New York is like 9 miles or something, right? Something like that, or one of the parts of New York. And then Putin issues new batch of threats and lies in response to UKR's receipt of cluster munitions. So again, Russia does not use cluster munitions and will take, quote, mere action if the UKR armed forces employ such projectiles. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin voiced this latest set of misleading statements during the Russian state television show Moscow, Kremlin, Putin. That's literally the name. Moscow, Kremlin, Putin. It says, I want to emphasize that Russia has a plentiful supply of various types of cluster munitions. We have refrained from using them thus far, despite a well-known shortage at one point in time. But if they are used against us, we reserve the right to respond in kind, Putin said. Furthermore, Putin alleged the assessment of these munitions was provided by the U.S. administration through its employees' statements. It says he cynically remarked that the U.S. administration itself labeled the use of cluster munitions as a crime at one time. Well, I believe that's how it should be viewed. This comes despite Russia's repeated use of such munitions in UKR, including attacks on civilians. It says the Pentagon officially announced the transfer of cluster munitions to UKR on July 7th as part of a new military assistance package. Now, this has all happened one thing at a time, but it has stepped up. And if you look at all of the things that they have given them, every time they have asked for something, they ended up getting it. But it's like when you go from small arms to javelins and rocket launchers to air defense systems to then tanks to APCs to long range to rockets, long range rockets to autonomous drones to everything we've given, and now cluster munitions. Where does this end? When did they say, maybe we should not give them these kind of things? Well, cluster munitions, of course, most have called out that they are not looked well upon. I guess what is the excuse for cluster munitions on either side? They're probably very effective at taking lives. I'm sure of that. But as far as the Pentagon, it says it officially announced the transfer of cluster munitions July 7th. The UK Armed Forces confirmed the arrival of the cluster munitions on the 13th. And it says his decision to supply cluster munitions to UKR has sparked disagreements among allies. Germany, Spain, and the United Kingdom and other countries have opposed the use of this weaponry due to the risks it poses to civilians. Now, I'm not a cluster munition expert, but from what I have seen as far as some of the videos of it being used, it's pretty nasty stuff. It says the White House explained that despite the risk, they made the decision to provide these weapons to UKR as they are crucial for effective counteroffensive operations. They clarified that the United States was facing a shortage of artillery shells to transfer to Kiev. So I guess the risk to civilian lives is worth it because we're literally out of stuff. I mean, like, we are out of stuff, so we're giving them the messed up stuff that most have decided that it's like, cruel and unusual. Dex is, there's a couple admissions here. Putin admitted that they were short of things, so that kind of confirms that was true back then. And then we, on our side, had JB admit that we're out of 155 millimeter artillery, and basically they just admitted they're giving them cluster munitions because we're low on ammo.
Well, and Putin said when they were low, they didn't use cluster, but the West is saying they've been using it this whole time. So it's kind of hard to know who's telling the truth here, what the true story is, other than the fact that we do know, everybody agrees, that the U.S. did send over clusters and they're going to be used by UKR. That's going to happen, and we'll see what the outcome is. But it very well seems to me like we may be out of something and said, well, let's just send the clusters instead because we can't produce enough of what they need with our own manufacturing. And that's very likely is the scenario.
Well, so what do you guys think of cluster munitions? Do you have experience with this? If you are ex-military, what do you know of cluster munitions? Put them down in the comments below. I'm not an expert. Don't know much about them, but from what I've heard as a regular person, that they're pretty bad. And obviously there's the big debate that's being talked about. UKR's sea drone attack on Crimea Bridge signals shift in strategy. Dex, do you want to cover this one?
Well, this is I guess one of the first times the bridge has been allegedly attacked by a sea drone, as they're calling it. So this, what's pictured here, the sea drone was what they say it kind of looks like. It's like a small miniature boat. Interestingly enough, it has like a jet motor in it. When I say jet, I mean like a jet ski type of motor. I think they're getting them from Sea-Doo out of Canada. It's a Canadian civilian jet ski manufacturer. I'm sure many people, if you know anything about jet skis, you've heard of Sea-Doos. But they're suggesting that that's what they used. They used this, very low to the water, very small footprint, painted dark black or dark blue, so it blends in and it's not easy to see. Has cameras on the front, remotely controlled, and obviously packed full of some boom boom, and they send it over and hit the bridge with it and took it out. So that's the suggestion, and this is kind of a new game. I think you can actually see one of the pictures in here of the bridge as well, further down in the article, if you guys want to see what we were talking about, how it's like two different sections side by side, and the one section is definitely severed. You can see there's like a whole section missing to the right of that photograph is the where the road would have been on the one side of the bridge. So, but yeah,
How would it? Because it looks like if you look at it, it has. We've seen this before. We talked about this prior when they were talking about these two dots in the front. Looks like the triggers, right? So if it hit, I think, or those might just be bumpers, but I think doesn't it hit this?
or sensors. I think it. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily an
That would be
impact.
pretty
I think it's
crude.
more of a remote control. Yeah, I think it's somebody's driving it and then pushing the button when they get it where they want it.
Because that would be a pretty simple trigger if it hit the bumpers against something and then that just boom, or it's higher tech than that. Looks like you've got cameras here, you've got sensors there. I did not know that those were made by Sea-Doo though.
No. The engine is. It's using a Sea-Doo engine. That's all.
Oh, okay. So what is?
Yeah, let's not totally throw Sea-Doo under the bus, but yeah, I don't think they're actually manufacturing the whole thing. It's just the engine.
Well, I don't even think it would be throwing Sea-Doo if Sea-Doo was. I don't think it would be throwing them under the bus if they're making military stuff, because half of the military stuff out there is U.S. gear, right? So if Sea-Doo is made, if this was a U.S. drone and this was, say, a U.S. military drone hitting one of our enemies, we wouldn't say we would be proud of Sea-Doo. But since it's here, of course, it's something that not everybody's in argument about. But as far as
well, they're labeled a civilian company, not a military company, so that's why I'm assuming that their product is being used, but not in a way that they built it for.
Huh? How did jet skis work? It's obviously, since it's not a jet. How does Sea-Doos even work?
The motor spins a turbine, and the turbine sucks water in and blows water out. And the jet of that water is what causes propulsion. And the angle of the jet right and left is what causes it to steer. And if, for example, you're going 55 miles per hour and you turn off the jet and you try to steer, nothing will happen unless you have rudders. But typically that's how a jet ski works, is that jet will push left, right, and obviously forward. Because of the jet blast that's coming out from the internal propeller system in the tube that's running off of the motor, that's sucking in water and blasting it out the back.
Huh. Well, it seems crude, and I guess the efficient. And then Ukraine takes responsibility for the attack on key Crimean bridge. So, and another thing is this is a civilian bridge, correct? I mean, regular people cross this all day, every day.
That's correct.
So, I'm sure not too many people are happy about that. UKR's military has claimed responsibility for an early morning attack Monday, probably when everybody's going to work, on the bridge connecting the annexed Crimean Peninsula to Russia's mainland that killed 2 people and left their daughter injured. A member of UKR's security service told CNN. So one thing I want you guys to think about, they're admitting UKR did this. They're saying that they're taking responsibility for it. And the way that they have wrote these articles, like now they've orphaned a daughter. This is actually looks really bad on UKR. And it's coming from our Western media, which normally protects them and makes them look good. They're essentially, I mean, this would be something you would think instead of, AP or one of the main, medias here, that this would be like RT saying they orphaned a daughter. Do you guys get what I'm saying? That it does not look good. They took out 2 civilians and orphaned a daughter. It's not great. But my point is, Usually they would spin that in some sort of way, or at least they would change the wording of the articles to minimize it, right? Instead, they're not. They're kind of doing the opposite, saying that this was bad. It even orphaned the young woman. So
Usually it's survived and survivor
yes,
in a positive spin, not orphaned. It's rare. I mean, you hear that all. You see stories. Even here in the States, parents perished and child survives. Right? It's not all of a sudden child orphaned. That is a very. I know what you're saying. I hear it. I see it.
yeah, dude. I mean, I noticed that stuff. It's the wording, because wording is everything. Words can change the narrative of something, right? And I've pointed it out back when this started, when they were really setting the narrative. They said mad Vlad or desperate Vladimir Putin. They're having you judge something before you even get into the article. It's just a descriptor, and it puts it into the back of your brain. Before you even start an article, they're saying desperate Vlad. What do you think of when you think of desperate? Like, I need to do, you think of desperation, despair. It's all in the words. And instead of, young girl survives, collateral damage, it's young woman orphaned by attack that attacked civilian bridge. Why are they? There's 4D chess here. They're doing it on purpose. The media doesn't do anything on accident, especially CNN, especially the big ones. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's see here. And thank you. LAPD SWAT says the Selective Service Act of 1967 can draft up to 55 years old. And they also added to that, we covered a few years ago, they're trying to put in resolution or bills to add women to that, to add even possibly older as part of the drill or part of the bill. And it says, NJM, any thoughts on Michael Herrera UFO Black Ops human training operation encounter? I am not. I know I've seen a video on that, and I read an article about it, but I'm not familiar. I'm not remembering which one that was. Dex, do you know about the Michael Herrera UFO thing?
I probably know the story, but I'm not putting the name together right now.
No, I'm not either. So I will have to get back to you on that NGM. People might go, I can't believe you don't know that. If I do, I'll tell you, and if I don't, I'll tell you. Before we move on, if you want to protect yourself against any kind of EMP, electromagnetic pulse attack, protect your cars, your trucks, and keep them running so that they can drive to get you to bug out or drive to get you home to bug in, then you definitely want to look into an EMP shield. This is the same company that's outfitted agencies like DHS, DOD, and they're on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. EMP Shield, again, is a veteran-owned company. It's a great set of people. Andrew, one of the main people there, actually, before he even did all of this, was a prepper himself. He's a very awesome part of the community. He's really great. All the people over there are. Anybody that's dealt with their company knows they're awesome. What they have is very special, though. This is a device that can actually ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry whatever it's plugged into. So if you wire into this your car, it takes less than 10 minutes. Do the red to the red part of your battery, black to the black part of your battery, and then green to ground. That's easy. Red to red, black to black, green to ground. That goes to a part of your frame, and then it will ground that signal before it's able to fry your car. They have them for everything else too, though. If you want to protect your ham radio, if you want to protect your Energy Flex 1500 solar generator, if you want to protect your solar system, if you want to protect your house, they have one. If you want to do your RVs, your motorcycles, your boats, anything you want to keep running, then you need to have one of these on it. marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's Keystone military tested. Again, EMP Shield was actually called up for the EMP Resilience Report by the Department of Homeland Security. So this is it's a company that can make that has a product that I don't believe really can be touched in this field. So Again, marfugglenews.com/EMP, and it's 100% American made down to the screws. So marfugglenews.com/EMP, you'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be helping our channel at the same time, and you'll be protecting yourself and allowing yourself to be able to get out when you need to get out or get home when you need to get home. The last thing you need, it's really kind of eye-opening when you realize that the certain gears of the cars, it's like there is no wire when you touch the gas to open up the gas valve. Like literally everything is digitalized right now. So if an EMP strikes, everything is going to be dead in the water. All right, and then there will be a response. Putin threatens to retaliate for Crimean bridge attack. But who is he going to retaliate against? Dex, do you want to go over what he's saying here?
Well, yeah, just this is sort of breaking in the sense that it just all happened. It just unfolded over Monday, their time, which was a little not too long ago, but before our time because they're ahead of us on the time clock. But he is saying there will be a response, and obviously now that UKR has come out and said, yeah, it's us, we did it, we're proud, look at what we did, because a lot of times they don't comment on certain things that happen, especially on the other side of the line. They've often not taken credit for things that a lot of us have said that was probably them, or they probably did it, or somebody in support of them did it. So, but now that they've come out and said it, I don't know exactly what his response will be. He didn't come out and say there's going to be, this specific action, but he said that they will retaliate for this. Now, I mean, look, you're in the middle of a conflict. So part of me is like, well, if you've got something better you could have done, why aren't you doing it if you're trying to win your conflict? Were you just going to wait until somebody, backslaps you across the face before you throw down the knockout 1-2? Or why wouldn't you just throw down the knockout 1-2 right now and get it over with? So we'll see. I'm guessing what we'll see is what we've seen in the past has been, a 2-night lob of a whole bunch of missiles or something like that, going after infrastructure, hitting different targets, etc. I think that happened last time after the truck took out parts of that bridge. There was a similar type of retaliation like that. So that's what I'm guessing will happen, but we'll have to see. Maybe it'll be something specific and significant to infrastructure like this is to them.
And by the way, I looked up the Sean Ryan show with the Michael Herrera thing, and it's the U.S. Marine Encounters UFO Black Ops. I have seen that gentleman, and I think is he not the same one that said that he saw a craft that was being loaded up by military members, or was that a different one?
No, that's the one. That's back in Indonesia in 2009. I wanted to tell you that too. I found it as well. He's the one we covered this, that he had a team, and he was saying his team saw that happen. They were loading up a UFO. So that's the story. We've covered it before, but I have not seen the interview or whatever was in that video he's talking about.
Yeah. So no, I haven't seen the full video there. Dex, did you pull up the Sean Ryan show? Maybe we can link that on our website.
I'll find it and put it on the website.
Okay. Otherwise, because I can share it with you right now. I have not seen that yet. I have seen him. We covered it back when one of his quotes, it was very viral, him talking about basically Marines loading up some sort of UFO technology, right? As far as my opinion on that, I don't know what to think. I don't know if they're going to do a fake alien this or that. Stephen Greer has been, years ago, people in our community really, like, it was split down the middle. A lot of people said he was a shill, this and that. Personally, because I have seen both sides of it, I've seen how people call people that, and they call everybody that. If they don't like you, they call you that. If they like you, they defend you. They make up things about you. They everything you can imagine. And when you know the truth, you're like, gosh, they do this to everybody. It's pretty messed up. But as far as the Dr. Michael Greer thing, people considered him, this, that. I've seen him a lot more lately, because one thing I have noticed is the things he said at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago are now happening. And he, I believe, is Dr. Michael Greer, the other guy that's in the interview with what's his face. It's like a lot of the things he said did come true. So then he started gaining credibility a lot more, because these things started happening. he was saying this stuff before all of this congressional stuff and this. So is there some sort of plan? Is there some sort of blue beam kind of plan going? I don't know. But it's just so crazy because we could go down so many different paths. I'm really excited to tell you guys. We may have to take some breaks here and there to record some stuff, but we have a really, really awesome thing planned. Several series going into previous kind of timeless subjects. In fact, like the dancing plague of the 1500s, some of the theories around Nikola Tesla. There's all sorts. I mean, there's actually hundreds of things that we've compiled that we want to talk about and break down and do videos on. So it's going to be really, really fun. And then also, we're going to try to break down some of the potential disasters that could happen to certain areas. So again, I think it will be really, really cool. So stay tuned. We've got lots and lots in store. Let's see here. As far as the retaliation, I just hope one of these times it could be against, us, because we don't know what's actually going on in secret to support UKR. So the target could be hovering over us here in the U.S. And then we have exclusive Belarus abducts thousands of UKR children, according to this in the Telegraph. It's crazy because some of these things, a few years ago, people would go, is this the Inquirer? What is actually going on here? But it says thousands of UKR kids have been forcibly deported to Belarus in an alleged crime that could implicate President Alexander Lukashenko. Now, there's multiple ways to look at this. Some believe they are getting people out, or especially kids and women and children and civilians, because something's about to go down in UKR. There's multiple ways you could look at this. But what if, now, you could, wording is everything. They are taking them, abducting, right? It says some 2,100 UKR children as young as 6 are estimated to have been taken to at least 4 camps in Belarus since September 2022. This also you could look at as this is a narrative that makes them look very bad. There's one thing we can universally agree on, that children should not be involved in this, that innocent children should not be hurt, taken somewhere against their will. We all agree on this. Going back to that UFO thing, that the thing is we're talking about trafficking of people, right? All I say is that I'm keeping my mind open until the very last second. Mainly, whatever may be happening, I'm trying to prepare for the potential outcomes. And I will prepare for both sides of the argument. That's what this is news from. We're news from a prepper standpoint. So I'm not here to tell you what to think about this story, but things are definitely headed into a really negative place. And there is a positive place that we can put our minds into. And of course, there's a lot of bad stuff that you can freak out about, or you can get prepared for it and try to have preps and try to prepare for both sides of it. Less about, I don't want this to be a political show where we're this or that. I want people to know all of these events, question everything, and then prepare for all of the outcomes. No matter what our audience is arguing about, or it's this, it's not that, this is fake, that's not fake, whatever, I'm telling you, prepare for both sides of it. Prepare for all 8 sides of it. There's part of me that thinks, man, could they be taking people out just like they did months ago, because something's about to go down really bad in UKR that's going to get NATO involved, get the rest of the world involved. That's what I'm waiting for. And I don't want it to happen, but that's what I think is going to happen. It says, quote, we want to show that the world that such activity being organized precisely by Mr. Lukashenko is a war crime. Also, when you get war crimes involved, when you get Belarus Lukashenko involved, he's now got nukes and tactical nukes on his soil. What is this a setup for? He said he would only get involved with Russia and the conflict if he is attacked. Well, why would he be attacked? Well, if he committed war crimes, somebody might attack him, and UKR people might attack him because he just did a war crime against them. it seems kind of like this is a setup for something. Don't know. Dex, what did you think? We didn't get to talk about this one before.
Okay, so I kind of have an interesting opinion on this. I'm looking at it like, okay, this is the same media that will tell us that there's 230 Afghan refugee children in the US that were brought over when we left. They didn't say they were abducted, they said they were rescued. But here we're going to turn around and call this person an abductor. And we want to paint this opposite picture when it, in theory, if it doesn't matter, it's just about what side you're on. When you think you're helping people from a region in conflict or in the midst of an area that they're not going to want to stay in, leave. Now, is he doing it forcefully or not? We don't know. They're just, they're making this claim around this initiative. This is the same media that won't say the words of the movie Sound of Freedom. They will call it the movie that that beat out, whatever other movie that launched that weekend.
The Christian film made in Utah.
Film. Exactly. They will, but they won't mention anything about child abduction at all. Okay, they will not say that when it comes to anything else. But if we can paint a bad picture of our enemies and throw that topic on them, oh, let's do it. We can get away with that. Everybody will jump on that bandwagon. But they won't do it when it comes to the other realities that are going on around the world. And when we, as the U.S., do the exact same thing over in Afghan and bring a whole bunch of people over, they're all clamoring onto the side of the airplane. The plane was packed full of people. There was tons of children in there, and they even admitted when they got here there was hundreds and hundreds of children that didn't even have their families with them. But those were rescues.
Do you see how wording makes an entire difference? I mean, it's huge. Let's go over to the chat. Let's see what people are saying. Russia will win and blow everything if they don't win, says Hong Kong Fooey. Del Val, UK hang center, drug hit, frazzle drip. There's so many people that would, I guess, just the truth of the things. There's been admissions to that. So that's what I don't get is there's hardcore truth that was out there, but the internet can control that. If you control the information, you control the world. Imagine the frog in Disney's throat for being mentioned with The Sound of Freedom. Well, we talked about that last week. It's like that movie specifically went over things that shook. It beat out the new Indiana Jones. The new Indiana Jones, I didn't see it, and I don't think I will. It's really sad because anything that Harrison Ford did since Star Wars, I would see Harrison. The Fugitive. I mean, there was plenty of really old school. Before we got involved, like everything, all of Hollywood was politically involved. This reminds me of back when they did before, I wasn't born, so I don't know, but like the Red Scare, how they blacklisted people and did all this stuff. Media is so directly tied with politics now. Some of my favorite movie stars I can't stand now because they have gotten involved and they're doing things not because they believe it, because they have to. And we know this because some stars have come out and listed other people and they go, they don't believe in this stuff. They just have to do it. Otherwise they won't get work. If they don't, the thing about the supposed woke thing, which I hate that word, but the supposed movements that are going on right now, protecting marginalized communities and things, none of these companies actually care. If I was part of any of these marginalized communities, I would be absolutely heated if I had 2 brain cells in my head. If I was part of the LG anything, if I was part of the this, that, and that, I would be absolutely pissed off at these companies that are literally selling things for money and trying to pretend like they agree with it when they're sitting in these boardrooms saying, a good example, my friend worked at I think I could say that. Okay, he worked at Amazon, and there is a department that was literally for what is it called? Diversity and inclusion. And somebody in that boardroom said, hey, have you noticed that it's all white guys here? Literally every one of us is a white guy. Maybe we could bring on some other people. And the guy laughed and said, supposedly laughed. I should say that. So supposedly laughed, and it supposedly isn't there really in reality, and says, ha 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 ha, we don't actually care about diversity and inclusion, but we have to make sure that we put that image out. And I believe this person. I believe what they say. So it's like, I would be absolutely pissed if all of these things that are going on are just for money, just for a rating, just so they can get more investment dollars. But when you go all the way up to the top of the pyramid, it's like, why are they doing it? I think it goes back to dividing the country, to breaking things down, to having us completely confused and divided to the point where we are easy to just completely break down. It's like spraying something on, spraying soap on, caked on grease. Spray it on and it slowly starts breaking it down, and then it just wipes away. That's how I look at it. How do you guys look at it? As far as the Sound of Freedom, they wouldn't say the dang name of the movie. They literally said a Christian film made in Utah. They made sure to throw that in there so you think, oh, it's a Mormon thing or something like that. They purposely did that to make you think of something, right? And they said beat Indiana Jones. How bad is Disney right now that everything they are doing that is going down this path is failing miserably? I don't know how well The Little Mermaid did, but they said that flunked. They did all of these movies that just completely hit it. Instead of, and again, that community, it's like, why wouldn't they make a new character that they could call their own instead of just replacing people with whatever community? That's what I don't get. Is I would, if somebody was representing my community, you would want a brand new story made after your community and your stuff. I wouldn't want for them to basically Photoshop my community on top of something that's already been established. That just seems like you're doing it for money. Does it not? What do you guys think? Misdirection tactics, part of Propaganda 101, says Sailor Spirit. Also can highly recommend Nefarious movie. Wow, Christian-based filmmaker, and it's so good you'll be enlightened to what the demon says it correct. I just saw that. It's still in the theaters, right? But it has like a home premiere. Nefarious. I've seen the cover of that and I thought it looked super creepy, so I didn't watch it. And then Russian army no longer loyal to Putin, according to news.yahoo. It says war criminal Gherkin. And again, this is a syndicated piece. They're telling us the Russian army is no longer loyal to Putin. Dex, this is funny because we've talked about this before. The main narrative in most media is that people basically just want to dump Vlad. But because of and by the way, before all this started, they banned a lot of the coverage. They banned companies from Russia. They banned independent journalists from Russia and vice versa. So they banned anything that they consider fake news. So you don't get any crossover and you don't get any information from either side. Like RT, you can't get on this platform or others, right? So you don't hear both sides of the story. As far as this goes, it says the bulk of the Russian army is not loyal to its leadership, convicted war criminal and former official of the Russian puppet authorities in Donetsk. See how they put that? Igor Gherkin said in a video posted on Twitter on July 16th, I'm afraid of the possibility that the enemy will still be able to break through our front by late August without exhausting his forces, in a situation where we have a president who is not informed or we have a president who is incapable of making decisions, Gherkin said. It says, then we will get a disaster on a national scale, much greater than the immediate consequences of some military defeat, even a serious one. In addition to the Wagner Group armed mutiny, which, again, if you look at the facts of now that we know what it was, it had zero chance of taking anything over. Gherkin cited as an example of the purging of the top military officers in Russia, in particular the recent dismissal of the commander of the 58th Army, Major General Ivan Popov. Popov subsequently took to Telegram to voice his grievances about his dismissal. Says Wagner, leader Yevgeny Prigozhin's coup obviously achieved the least part of its goals. Now, some thought that that mutiny thing was to see who supported it, and that it might have even been put on by Russia. That that Putin told Yevgeny or whatever, said, "Hey, do this so we can see who gets on your side, so they could wipe those people out." Could that actually have been what happened? Because they did wipe out some of the major generals and things. Popov's speech shows that the army is not internally loyal to its own command. The gap between the command, the leadership of the defense ministry, and the army is huge. In this situation, the risk of military defeat becomes a risk for our statehood. Even so, even if his military did completely turn on him, like they say in many places now that they're completely disloyal to him, that's a bad thing too. The guy still has tools he can use, cyber teams, things like that he keeps completely separated. And what did they call that, Dex, when compartmentalized? So he could control satellites, different weapons, all sorts of things at his disposal, even if big chunks of his military turn on him. And that would not be good either. Dex, go ahead.
On one hand, this is a talking piece. He's a former convicted war criminal, etc. But look at our own military. Does 100% of our military stand behind our current president at a personal level? No. Many of them don't. They all have their own political opinions, but they follow orders. They stay in line with their intermediate leadership that commands them and tells them what to do, with their leadership that commands and tells them what to do, et cetera, et cetera. And the further you get up the chain, I'm sure when you go way down to the bottom of the chain, there's a lot of, disloyalty, if that's the term you want to use, that this author and this guy chose to use when he's talking about it. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden the military is just going to turn around and go after, and coup the president. So I don't see much difference here than any other leader who doesn't have 100% support. If any leader has, some number less than 80%, which most of them have, like 50%, 30%, 40%, our current president, he's not well liked by the world. His approval ratings, anywhere between, 40 and sometimes lower. I don't know what it is right now, but that same thought, you can apply it directly to anybody's military. You can apply it to our military. I guarantee you can go find in our audience, there are military families right here that have children that are in the military that'll tell you right now they don't like our current president. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be, follow orders,
because they're fighting more for their country than their leader, right? And that's why I think Russia does. If Putin is the leader of that country, then in turn. But I don't think they have that problem. I've spoken to long time ago, someone who I dated in my early 20s, and I've known her for a very long time, has family there, and said that it's not like that. That people do respect Putin, and even if they don't like him, they respect him. And they respect some of his choices, because Putin in the past has made things to where he even kind of screwed over the government to make sure that the people were happy. In some cases, there are definitely things that people have problems with and things. And what she said is that the reason why he has stayed in so long, other than the kind of things and the strings he's pulled to stay there, is because people do like him and admire him. Not saying I admire him, but again, the people there, if they are the best at propaganda, like many countries say they are, then you would think that they would be good at getting people to like Putin. What do you guys think? Do you think that the Russian people hate Putin? It doesn't seem like it. But who knows? We also don't get half of the information anymore. A couple of years ago, they basically cut out all of the other side. All right, and then U.S. Virgin Islands demand $190 million from J.P. Morgan over Jeffrey EpiPen relationship. The U.S. Virgin Islands says it is seeking at least $190 million from JP in its lawsuit accusing the bank of facilitating the EpiPen's trafficking operation. In a Friday court filing in Manhattan, the USVI also said that it wants JP Morgan to commit to reforms that would prevent the bank from enabling the trafficking humans in the future. EpiPen notably had a private island in the USVI where he brought many of his victims and an unreleased list of associates who abused them. And by the way, they know for a fact this gigantic list of celebrities, powerful people, princes, everybody went there. And they even like McCain's wife even said, "Oh yeah, they all knew what he did there." So if somebody's name is on that list, why is there not being done investigating every single celebrity, every single person on that list? That is number one question in so many people's heads, including pretty much anybody that matters that TMZ follows or that has some sort of power in government was there. And the most powerful people were there 30, 40, 50 times. So when people say, oh, well, this politician's better than that politician, they were probably all there and they were high-fiving behind closed doors. That's why there's a good sect of people that don't believe any of it, that keep their mind completely open to any outcome because they don't really believe any of it, that it's all secretly high-fiving behind closed doors. That's why I say prepare for any of the outcomes, no matter how crazy, because right now we don't know what's going on. If you're mad at the government, they probably wanted you to be mad. They probably war gamed it out so you would be mad for a certain amount of time until they distracted you with being mad about something else. Because they don't care if you're mad at something as long as they're controlling the fact that you're mad at something. If you're enraged or if you're sad about something, they can control all of that. We're talking about, we knew in the 60s and the 50s, before we had all this technology, that they were able to essentially make you think whatever they wanted you to think. And you think that now that, since we know that the government has been involved in almost all of the platforms, all of the social medias, Facebook, all of this, that they don't have huge operations that are extremely well put together, even if extremely well put together means that it looks like it's horribly done. And it makes you shady about it, like this is fishy. This doesn't make any sense. They probably knew that you would think that doesn't make sense. That's why I think it's like rock, paper, scissors, where you do rock, paper, scissors, and they do paper, and you go, oh, I'm trying to think ahead. They just did paper, and they probably think, because I did paper, I'm going to do scissors, so then they're going to do rock. Well, I'm going to do paper. If you've really gotten serious about rock, paper, scissors, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. They know that, and they do this on a daily basis. That's my opinion. But as far as it's crazy that this is, I don't care about them getting their $190 million. I care why isn't more being done about every single person on that leaked list and the list that is now out in public. You shouldn't watch movies with those people in it, period. And I don't care what side they're on or who they are. That includes people that I used to like and used to think were awesome people. Let's see here. Before we move on, I definitely want to remind you, it doesn't matter what the outcome is, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get freeze-dried food that will last 25 years. Again, this is a great deal right now because they have $80 off on a 1-month supply. If you end up going more bulk, like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, again, that is the best deal they've had. Because if you use that discount on 2 months or 3 months, you actually get the best deal they've had since we've been with them for more than 3 years. If you get $80 off on a month supply and you get 3 months, that's $240 off. The biggest discount we saw was $200. So again, now it's even more if you do get bulk, or if you have kind of a lower entry level, if you just want to get a month. Very, very affordable way to get yourself backup freeze-dried food that will last over 2 decades. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Highly recommend you look into their meat, as far as they have a separate meat package that you can get that basically goes along with all of the other foods that they have. And again, marfooglenews.com/prep. It helps support us and it gives you a giant discount, and it's helping you prepare yourself for any kind of disaster. All right. And Dex, did you have something to talk about on the JP Morgan before we move on to
Yes.
the massive drill that's going on?
Yes, actually, I did. A couple of thoughts I had on this. One, they're seeking 190 million. Hopefully, they get it. I would like to think that the country doesn't actually just use that money for themselves, but it sounds like they may, because they also said in its filing, the U.S. Virgin Islands indicated that it would seek additional compensatory and punitive damages to be distributed to the victims. So I don't know if that means that this amount of money would go to the victims, or if they're going to come back and ask for more that goes to the victims. Now, if you do recall, we've reported on this before, about 290 million from JP Morgan was settled out of court with the victims, and the information on that was sealed. Obviously, since it was out of court, that was part of the deal. The 290 million went to the victims of that original lawsuit that went after JP Morgan. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with this 190 if they even get it. But that was my comment.
And so they know that this big bank was basically complicit in this whole thing. I mean, it's how did they not ask why, millions of dollars were being, like, it'd be crazy if later this came out and we found out what people were paying. Like, these big celebrities were paying millions of dollars to do things to, I mean, and the crazy part is, just because EpiPen's gone doesn't mean that this has stopped. This is, in fact, they say that this is secretly the biggest moneymaker in the world, probably above everything else illegal, and that it's growing. It's a huge thing. It's crazy because if you look at life, as far as, you look through a certain filter, you just see rainbows and ponies, but the real world is not like that. The real world has this disgusting, nasty things. How many kids and teenage girls go missing all the time? And it's like a taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. They assume that they were just taken by this or that. There's organized crime related to this. There's whole groups taking them and never bringing them back. Go ahead, Dex.
Well, and let's not forget, they actually sold the island to someone who I think is going to turn it into a resort. If I remember how we last reported that. So can you imagine, like, that people would actually want to pay money to go there? And it's in my mind, I would never, but there are people that will. And obviously, that's not. I wouldn't think that they're going to do the same thing there that he did in the past. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But people right now will do anything to go take pictures and get on that island. I mean, it's kind of creepy. I guess there's that whole creepy factor to it. And by the way, one other thing, this was a local event here, and I don't have all the details to it, but talking about trafficking, a lady in our nearby town here saw a child on the side of the road, stopped to help the child, and was on the phone with her mother, and she got abducted. They used the child as bait to abduct another woman.
So is that what actually finally came out of it? Because they found her and she was alive. Did you?
Yeah, I heard they found her and she was alive. I don't know all the details of the story, but I know going into it, that's what they were speculating. And that's that's the kind of stuff that happens. It happens all the time. I mean, be careful who what you see, what you do when you're out and about. People will put up a front, and before you know it, you're thrown in a van and you're gone.
They found her car running. And I would say check, because my wife said she found like the whole conclusion to that. They found her alive, but like, that's so terrifying. And then what's the deal with the kid? Did they know whose kid was it? Why was there a child there? Was the child a part of it, or is that just separate? God,
somebody's saying it was a love triangle in chat, but I don't know the story, but and I'm sorry if I'm bringing it up and it's incorrect, guys. But look, I'm telling you, that kind of activity goes on. It happens all the time. I mean, I've had people flag me down to try to get me to pull over to help them with a broke down car, and I know it's not legit. I can just see it. I got an eerie sense that they're gonna victimize me. They're gonna steal my car or rob me or something, you know? So yeah,
Well, I get what you're
the
saying.
world out there is pretty cruel.
There was and the thing is so my childhood friend Jack, he was who I always pull over for people, and when I was younger, he drove before I did. He was a couple years older than me, and his dad taught him. Like we would literally go out of our way. One time we were towing a parade float because he had this huge truck, and one of the local charity groups basically asked him if he would take it to all the Washington fairs and stuff. So we ended up taking this parade float. So we even had a 60 or 70 foot like parade float behind us. For us to help somebody, we had to not only pull over with the truck, but we had to pull over with this parade float. And if we missed them, he would go 10 miles down. And if there was no exit, he would go 10 miles, take the exit, then get back on the freeway, then get back off, then get back on behind where this guy was to then go pull over and to help him. And that's what I saw. And he did this every single time. He's never not done it. And that's what I saw. And it really made a mark on me. And the people were so thankful. And it showed me what kind of person my friend Jack is actually very important to me. And I named somebody after him. That's how much I appreciate him. And he's just a good man inside and out, has always done. He's the kind of guy you ask to move, it's done. Like I'm there, cancel things on his own to come help his friends. That's the kind of person I looked up to, a lot more than I looked up to my own dad, because my own dad perished early. But the point is it's like for you to be that kind of person, and then to have somebody broke down on the street, and it's actually a fake thing to rob you. It just it makes you feel so crappy about human beings in general, that there's so many that do that. I've heard so many stories in just the last few years of people broke down and they have 3 or 4 guys hidden in the bushes, and then they rob you, they take your car, and they leave you for DEAD. I mean, it's horrible. And back to what I was talking about earlier, it's like how kids can't go out and play anymore because of the weirdos. Is it true, though? Has it gone up? Is there a lot more sick and disgusting people? Well, some people might blame that on how, in general, culture has changed. People have changed. Now with the internet, people are looking at sick and disturbing things now from an early age. I can't imagine these kids, and especially the people that don't filter it at all, what the kids are seeing at young ages, disturbing things on the internet that they can access, and unfettered access to it at at 3, 4, or 5 years old. I can only imagine what it's going to do in the long term. But what do you guys think? I don't think there's really a way to say why everything is changing so rapidly other than technology and advancements. And then Northern Interaction 2023 to kick off soon. Joint military exercises between China, Russia, in the Sea of Japan has clear purpose and actual combat significance. Now, as far as this goes, Northern Interaction, just the word, Northern Interaction, I mean, the way they name these drills, this is going to be a massive drill. And one thing to point out about drills in general is drills are a good way to move massive amounts of military with not a lot of eyebrows raised. Again, this is going to be with Russia and China and in the Sea of Japan. I've been told to watch Japan. The person I trust says that Japan is going to be a huge part, and could only go so far into why, that Japan was going to be a huge part of World War III. And when I see things like this, I think of that. I think of what they said. Chinese Ministry of National Defense announced Saturday that Russia will dispatch naval and air forces to participate in Northern/Interaction 2023. It says drills in the central region of the Sea of Japan organized by the Chinese People's Liberation Army. It says that the event marks Russia's second time participating in the PLA annual strategic drills, and also a first that Russia has dispatched both naval and air forces to participate in similar events, according to Chinese military observers. Now, remember, this isn't something that's been going on for years and years and years. In fact, last year was the first. This is the, I believe, unless I'm wrong, this is the second year. So I think of drills like when Russia did a drill outside of Ukraine when they brought 160,000 soldiers to the border. And then they set up gear, they set up hospitals, they set up everything. And then they were like, psych, it was just a drill. They took all the 160,000 troops back and all of their people, but they left all of the gear there. And then a year later, they actually went in. So there is something, part of me that goes, okay, this is the second year. What if last year was practice for a real event? They call it a drill. Not, they don't send the whole U.S. Navy out there or NATO Navy out there, and then something really does go down. Say North Korea or something ends up doing something, and they have the Chinese and Russian Navy right there, and something pops off. Dex, again, I'm hoping it's just a drill. But this is this is definitely the No Limits partners here, so got to pay attention.
Yeah, even anytime there's a drill, you have to pay attention, especially with the navies, especially with large numbers of military, and especially in contested or close areas. So when they run a drill along the, near the border of Russia, like in Finland, that's a big deal. You got to pay attention to that. When they run a drill in contested waters or in areas that have contested islands in it, like the Sea of Japan, that's a big deal because it can easily, accidentally even, escalate into something that's kinetic and hot. Like a mistake can be made, or a mistake can be made and it can be interpreted as real, and real can turn into a real retaliation, an instant retaliation, which then returns into another one. And it just snowballs from there. So this is, we've seen this in history. Like it's happened before. Matter of fact, all of our large conflicts have started with something small, one little thing that happened that could have easily been averted. Now, was that planned? Could it have been created? We don't know, but it certainly, those are all within the realm of possibilities, but just as much as the realm of possibility that any one of these massive size drills can easily turn into something that escalates quickly, and it can deteriorate from there.
Now, I don't know. This may actually be the third year, and it says 2021 in August of 2021. So you would see in August 2022 and then in August 2023. I think this would be the third year. But again, same applies. If these drills, when they do these things, they're practicing for a certain hypothetical event. What is that hypothetical event? What are they actually practicing to do in this event? Is China and Russia going to also do a hypothetical scenario where they take over Japan, or they set up flotillas to block trade routes? What will they actually do during this one? I don't see us getting too many updates on the exact purpose of it, but anytime the prepper community always watches what they're doing. Mimi Carstill, thank you for the support, and I believe that's says Czar, so I think that's from New Zealand, but again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you for the support and for the super chat. Appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you for supporting Independent. So, again, do all of you also follow these? For 6 years, we've followed these drills, and by the way, we followed that Russian drill, and that turned into this whole debacle. So, again, drills can turn into the real event. Throughout history, we have seen drills that are played out that they didn't respond to because they were just drills, and the real thing ended up happening, and they didn't have weren't able to respond. In particular, World War II had drills that were going on during, I believe, and if I'm not wrong, during 9/11. There was a drill going on the West Coast with jets responding. They were essentially drilling for almost the exact scenario that was actually playing out on the East Coast, and it cut our response times. That whole thing is shady in the first place. If you weren't alive when that happened, then you may not know how shady it possibly was. But I'd highly recommend going back in time because it changed the U.S. forever with the Patriot Act and every other thing that happened. So yeah, things like this can turn into something very, very big. We'll be paying attention, and we will update you guys on what ends up happening. Thank you, Wages. You don't have to do that. Late fee, sorry, on vacation, but still want to be here, tells you how awesome this Foogle fam is. Hey, Wages, thank you, and I appreciate that. Again, you don't have to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you're having a good vacation. I got your text, and no worries, and thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and I love you. I love you. You are a good man, Mark. All right, and then thank you, Celtic Warrior, Nana of Montana, Kenny Crowder, Wages, again, thank you. Redeem, Forgiven, Sinner, thank you. Carrie Schaefer, thank you for becoming a member. Redeem, thank you for becoming a member. Scrappy Doo, thank you for becoming a member. Kevin Cowan, thank you for becoming a member. And again, thank you, Jamie Peace, for becoming a member. Linda Briggs last week, thank you. Roger Laneshaw, thank you. And again, thank you to all of the top PayPal donors of this year. Thank you, Linda S., Jacqueline L., Dawn D., Jeff B., Lisa H., Joanna H., Dean G., Helen M., Nicole S., Kathleen M., Stephanie M., LJ, Tiffany P., Chris G., Jeffrey C., Linda P., Linda P., Blaine E., Brenda L., Cameron R., Dixie W., Elizabeth S., Ross A., and Sonia P. Some of the others, Franco LLC, Alan B., Tracy Q., thank you guys, Tomahawk 0299, and everyone else. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for supporting us through thick and thin over the last 6 years. You guys have been absolutely crucial to us surviving through all of the ups and downs of YouTube and every other platform for when we have been off this platform and on to others over on DLive, our family over there, and who knows, possibly soon other places. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you guys, and thank you. Dex, we've got crazy other stories here, so why don't we go over some of that?
Sure thing. Let's head over to marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you to this page with all of the sources and links to everything we've already discussed and even things that we added. Like at the very bottom of the page, I added the video for you guys to go check out the Sean Ryan show with Michael Herrera. But in addition, this yellow bar overflow is the rest of the story. So lots going on. I'll give you the brief update. Of course, there's the updates with Hollywood plunging into what they're calling an all-out conflict. Now they're saying it's on the heels of CV and on the heels of a streaming revolution, and maybe that's playing part of it. I think there's a lot of other things going on too. It's also kind of interesting to see that this is happening right after that movie that they won't talk about just came out too. I don't know that that has anything to do with it, but kind of interesting. But to continue on, there's a big consent farm that the U.S. is now suing that they were using for telemarketing that actually was conducting basically a massive telemarketing deception. So if you're curious about that, it's on there. You can learn more about it. Of course, we got some of the updates on the heat. It's the heat wave going across all of the U.S. just about now. Of course, Phoenix has got some really high temperatures that are happening. And a very interesting story about what happens to your body during a heat wave and how you can deal with that. If you haven't noticed, I noticed it. I went outside today and I was like, wow, everything looks weird here in Georgia. It's not supposed to be like this far down. Well, yes, the pollution from the Canadian wildfires is back, and it's back all over. It seems like it's hitting a lot. So if you want to see what that map looks like, they show it in that article. It's out there, but yeah, it's here, all the way down here in Georgia. We see it, and it's kind of crazy. I don't smell it, but I can certainly see it. I'm sure others can smell it. Lots of other things going on with the in the political side. We've got some stuff happening, like Zuckerberg's training is there's some updates in there as well. RFK is in the news. I think he's going to be be in the news quite a bit going into the primaries, so to speak, and see if he actually makes it beyond that. All the T-Man stuff is there. We definitely have a little bit of additional coverage with UKR and Russia and what's happening there. The grain deal was they've said that they're dumping it. We reported on that last week. They were going to. Now they've officially said they're doing it. So we'll have to see what happens. I do know that they're saying the grain prices have gone up. So we'll see if that's just a short-term thing or a long-term thing. Talk about surveillance. Even Amazon was telling their drivers, don't worry about in-van surveillance cameras, but now they're having to worry about it because the footage is leaking online. That and a lot more. It's all right there on the website, marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It's the easiest way to find it. It's always right there.
Thank you, Dex. And again, the video is down at the very bottom. Make sure to also go over and check out marfooglenews.com/friends to find all of our great collaborators. And again, a great group of mods. They all have great channels. Just a special hello, Lisa R. Hall, wherever you are. Love you. Rip Curl, love you too. Thank you. Trinity, hope you're doing well. And Ilea, thank you for being here. Again, thank you for being here tonight. RJL Harris, I hope you're doing well. Wages, thank you for popping in. Thank you, Chance. Make sure to go check his books out on Amazon. Thank you, Bones, wherever you are. CJ, thank you. Jammer, and of course, everyone else, thank you, and thank you. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Thank you over on D Live. Special thank you to One Up B, Renegade PD, Mindy's mom, Doubt Her, and Kimbria, Beer Juice. The end is near. Thanks, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Love you all. Good night. MJ 1979, Scooby-Doo Do Right. Thank you. And thank you, Mav Angel, Poco Loco, and everyone else. I love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. I said on the back, I said away, I said a be on the back with a bag now. Everybody gonna go with the bag now. I got the button in the ghost, Lisa Daphne, Rebecca, and a Snake Lee, Dennis and a beer juice. Everybody gonna see that woo. They on the boo, they on the vow. Rockwell R, everybody out. D on the land, KC cleans the lie. I said, babe, on the night, everybody have a good night. Bam on the R, Willie Wayne, Penny Salmons in the missile game. I said, ball in the ghost, everybody gonna have a good time, y'all. Everybody really wanna have a good time now. Trinity, red or blue, Bill High Ho, commit the froggy eye. WISN, hello, Marfoogle Jam. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Hey, with the bag now, everybody bag now. Highly agility. A Jim, a one. Lisa R. Hall and CJ, please. Ball in the ghost. Lisa Dabney, boogie high. I said a Blizzardly. I said a Susie come out. Night everyone, Andy man, everybody doing what they can. Excellent on bring it on down now. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. Northern Interaction 2023. What are they practicing? Don't ask me. But I know it's not good. No, it's not good. World War III. WASN on way to my way. Hey, we're going down. We're down right. How do it? Potato Biden. Hey. Gotta do those Marfoogles, everyone. Do la la lula. I said, wow, Willie Willie Wayne in the comet moon just in time. Proof in the pudding, WASD, everybody knows it. I love them. Hey, everybody, have a good night. W3, but at least no mean tweets in me. I rob mags in the car, my Jack, Kung Fu and now everybody, yeah. Got the rock out, black out, and the dawn Z63 now. Everybody home, everybody gonna go home back home. I got CJ Blaze in the gym. Everybody gonna tell you when. Lisa Ho in the real girl. Baba Talk 777 is square. Jeff wanna be just in true, just in time in the mystery be 332. I say official and Lynn Show. Off-grid does a farming with Ballin and Adrian. A prepper nurse, one real BP in the sugar team. Hey, I said it back down, third phase of moon in the midst of round. Till everybody gonna go down. I see the